Yeah.
Everybody's got their stuff, but I think in general, myself and everyone else has got a really interesting story to tell.
Mm.
And it's about being curious and learning more about that person and what makes them tick. Like, I don't want to know your favorite color, if you like ketchup or mustard. I want to know, like,
What sets your soul on fire?
So feel me when I bring it, sing it loud. I'm from the loot and I'm proud. Run a mile for the cause. I'm right.
Hi, guys. It's your girl, Nechama, your favorite Jew from the Lou. Welcome back to my podcast. And today I am so excited to have Laura Stansberry with me. Welcome.
thank you.
I got your name right this time,
Yes,
right?
you did. You're perfect.
Thanks. Thanks. So I always love to start off my podcast to say how I connected with my guests.
Mhm.
And you and I connected a few months ago. I think it was the January podcast, or not podcast, the meetup with Babes in Business
Yes.
at the Dreamers Loft.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
I was so excited because we always go around and like say what each of us do.
Mm-hmm.
And no one yet, at least the ones I had been to, had said that they had a podcast.
Yeah.
And you were just about to launch yours.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually want to ask you, like, what was that process like for you? Because I'm going to nerd out with you right now
Sure.
because this is so much fun for me because not many people understand all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was something that had been on my mind for a little while. I would say maybe about a year.
Mhm.
And I thought, really, do I want to do a podcast? What would I talk about? I don't want it to just be exclusively about me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of photographers because I am a photographer, who have educational podcasts for other photographers. And I'm like, no, there's a lot of that already. That's not what I want to do. So my vision as a photographer is to focus on women. And I thought that's it. That's what this podcast that I'm going to create needs to be about is women's stories, um, and all that they have to offer because every woman has something to offer, no matter what her career path is, what her work history is, what her family history is, what her life and educational history is. Every woman has a story to tell, and I want to hear those stories. So
Yeah.
that's where I approached creating my podcast from. And I will be very honest with you, it has been so much harder than I thought it was going to be. I love talking to people
Mhm.
and sitting down and having the conversation, and that has been important to me of like scheduling time and actually sitting down in person to try to chat with people.
Yeah.
Coordinating schedules is the most difficult part. And I've had like a little hiatus, not because I've run out of topics or run out of people, but simply because I should have probably backlogged some recordings, but I was like,
Mm.
let's go, let's do this, let's just start.
Yeah.
And then I got into like a scheduling blip. So we've been on a little hiatus, but we will be picking up again next week and continuing onward. Um, Technically, as you know, the journey has been tricky.
Yeah.
It seems super easy. Like I have a laptop, I just need to get some microphones and whatever. Well, 4 or 5 microphones later, and we're still having recording problems, and I've
Mm.
just sort of been like, "Whatever, it is what it is." Like, I'm
Yeah.
I'm not Joe Rogan. I would love to be the lady Joe Rogan of the podcast world, but I am not yet. So, who cares? Let's just do it. Let's sit down and not get caught up in the technical part, but actually, like, sit down and have these conversations I wanna have, and that's been
Yeah.
great. That's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's so great because I could tell you it, it's the technical part is the hardest part of the
Mhm,
podcasting. And it's not even just figuring out to begin with, because that alone, there's so many ways
mhm.
to start a podcast, even if you're just doing recording and not doing video.
Yeah.
But like for me, there's been so many times when I finally figured it out and I'm in my flow state, and I'm like, great, this is great.
Right.
Something goes wrong.
Mhm.
And the worst part is trying to figure it out when you don't know how to figure out the tech issues,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So my question is, I remember at the Babes in Business, like a big part of like that group is that pushing each other to really hold each other
Hmm.
accountable for what we say we're gonna do,
Yeah.
right? And so like I hadn't met you before that session, but Steph was like, "You've been talking about this for a long time.
Hmm.
So what held you back from starting?"
It was really like, can I do this?
Okay.
Can I do this? And there was a little nervousness about it of, am I interesting enough to do this? And I'm like, well, frankly, yes. But also, I don't have to be interesting because it's really not about me. It's
Yeah.
about all of these other amazing women and having that. So once I sort of got over that nervousness hump of like, oh gosh, what are people going to think? What are people going to
Mhm.
say? What if my voice sounds stupid? What if I look dumb? Well, we took that out of the equation because I'm like, I'm having so much trouble just getting a recording out, much less a
Yeah.
video. So, nix that for a little while. But once I got all over all of the nervousness and sort of the self-doubt of it, I was like, we're just doing this. We're just going to start. So I had talked about it for a couple months and finally just set a date. Like, this is when it is coming out. And that's when like the pressure was on. I started advertising it. I started, telling people about it. I'm like, well, now I really got to do it. So,
Yeah.
and that was just it. And that hold up for a year to a few months was really just the self-doubt of things. And once that was gone, kind of all there is.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is so applicable, I think, to anything in life
Mhm.
because I think no matter what stage you're at, there's always that nervousness and that anxiety when you're starting something new
Yeah.
about like, am I good enough? How am I going to be perceived? Do I even know what I'm doing?
Mhm.
Also, as we get older, like, can I even handle another thing? Like, yeah, I'm passionate and excited, but
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah. And I don't think I've said it yet. The title of my podcast is Just Figure It Out Later.
yes,
Um, it's sort of a joke because a little inside joke between my husband and I, because I say that a lot. I say, just figure it out later. And I actually do this like little jazz hands thing.
yeah,
And he laughs because way early in our relationship, I think I had said, oh my gosh, I don't know. I'll just figure it out later. And he was like, this worries me a little. Because he's a planner. Like he is the guy who has got like a spreadsheet. We've figured it all out. We know exactly what we're doing. And we've analyzed all the data and come up with like a full plan before we've launched. And I'm like, and that could be anything. It could be vacations, it could
yeah,
be whatever it is. And I'm like, I don't know. It'll all work out or it won't. We'll just figure it out later.
yeah.
So when I was thinking about what do I want to call this thing, I'm like, that's perfect because it's not only, I feel like it's just sort of things do always work out. You do figure it out. And it's that hesitation in the self doubt and the inaction that stops people from doing things. And for better or for worse, like I've done some crazy things in my life, around my career, around jobs, around my personal life. And you know what? I have just figured it out. It does just continue on carrying through life, and things generally work out the way they're supposed to work out, and you end up better for it.
I'm a big believer in that.
Mhm.
I think I used to fall kind of personality wise somewhere between you and your husband
Mhm.
in terms of I say I'm a recovering type A because I liked having a plan. I liked
Mhm.
figuring things out. I liked having set dates and times and doing lots of research. But I also have ADD and life be
Mhm.
lifing and things just
Yep.
happen the way they're supposed to happen. And so I learned that when things don't happen in my timeline, it would cause me to have so much anxiety and just frustration and a lot of times like resentment.
Mhm.
So it was better to learn to just let it go. Everything's figured outable. Things happen exactly when they're supposed
Yeah.
to. You're never late for your own life,
Right.
you
Yeah. And
know?
I mean, I used to work in HR and I used to tell people, like, as long as you're coming at things with, the best intentions, really like the best judgment, you're not doing anything illegal, immoral. you're not committing any crimes of any sort, it's all going to be okay. Like it really is. It's just going to be okay. And you're going to learn a lot through that. And I too can sometimes get caught up in, well, I have to get all of these details worked out. This has to be perfect or nobody's going to like it. Well, that's just simply not true.
Right.
It's really not. And you can tinker with things forever, but that's really just delaying the action, and that often comes out of fear.
Right. I think what helps me, I think this is true with everything in life, but especially with the podcast,
Mhm.
was Mr. Beast is like a really successful YouTuber.
Mhm.
And I heard a little video clip of him once talking about how if you want to be a creator of any kind,
Mhm.
you need to make 100 videos, even if it's just for yourself and you're not publishing it out to the ether, but even better
Mhm.
if you publish it out because you're going to learn so much.
Mhm.
Those first 100 videos you're going to think are great. They're shit. But
Mhm.
you're going to grow so much in terms of skill set, confidence, and then just learning to navigate how when everything fails, but I said I'm going to do something, how am I going to like roll that out, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very true. And I first of all, my ADHD brain could never sit down and be like, I'm gonna do 100 of something before I take action.
Mm,
Like, could never. I will get so bored along the way and never finish that. But in the pursuit of trying, I absolutely see what he's saying because as a photographer, when I look back at the pictures that I first took when I started my business, I was so proud of those pictures. Like, I remember looking at this one particular picture and thinking, I don't know how I'm ever going to capture anything better than this image right here. And while I still love that image, it's this beautiful pictures of my nieces, like in the glowing sunset behind them. Um, I have taken thousands upon thousands of pictures that have just gotten better and better and better and better over time. Um, but if I just took that one and thought, well, this is good enough, and never keep going and going and going, and changing and improving and trying new things, it would have probably just never grown beyond that.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's a really cool growth moment to be able to look back and remember how you felt and you're like, I'll never get better. Like I've
Yeah.
topped, I peaked.
I've peaked and,
Yeah.
and to know like, oh my gosh, and I was talking to my sister about it and she's like, I love that picture still. And I'm like, I'm glad because so do I.
Right.
But now I've taken pictures of her kids that are even, that we're hanging on the walls. They're not just snapshots anymore. We're hanging them on the walls and, that's fun to see that progression.
Yeah. So you said you were doing HR.
Hmm.
How did you transfer from HR to photography? Because that's quite the leap. Like HR, were you
Sure.
corporate?
Yeah. For like
Wow.
15 years.
Wow.
Yes. I had left my job. I was working out of the country at the time, and my job was done. Like my job at that time was to train a new person in the country where we had expanded to do the job of an HR manager. Once she was ready, my options were go somewhere else within the company, which would have probably been somewhere super far away from St. Louis. And I was just kind of done. I was tired of being away from home. I was tired of being away from my family. I wasn't married. I did not have a partner at the time. So I just thought, I don't know. I'm going to take all of my sabbatical time that I have with this company because I've been with them for so long,
Yeah.
and I'm going to go home and I'll figure it out. And I took all my sabbatical time. That came to the end, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm leaving, not coming back. And I took a job as a consultant, as an HR consultant. And then throughout the like next year is when I met my husband. And about 6 months after we got married, I had a chance to go to the Grand Canyon and thought it would be really cool to have a camera to take on my trip to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
And so he bought me a camera. He actually sent it to me at my hotel and when I was on my trip. And then I came back and thought, well, I've got this cool camera. Seems like a waste to just like stick it in the closet. So I took some online classes and started taking pictures of my family and friends. And then I thought, you know what? I think I'm really going to do something with this.
I love that.
And I started the first thing professionally that I started photographing was school children
Oh,
for their like little spring and fall school photos. You know, gone are the days of Life Touch, although you can still use Life Touch, but don't use Laura Stansberry photography instead. Uh,
yeah.
that was my first professional gig, and that was not. I found a course that I really liked. Um, but I just sort of was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I've got to do it.
Yeah.
And I emailed 50 schools in the St. Louis area and just said, here's who I am. Here's what I'm offering. I would love to be the school photographer for your school. Let me know if you'd like to hear more.
Let's
And
go.
I had several schools reach back out to me. I am still
Yeah.
today photographing 2 of those schools. And it's the best. Like, I love those little kiddos. Some of those kids I've been photographing since they were in newborns.
Oh,
And now
wow.
they're either have gone off to kindergarten or about to go off to kindergarten.
Wow. So
Um,
you've seen that journey. That's
yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. And then some of those families, like I take their family photos and uh, dads have or moms have hired me for headshots or hired me for other things. So, you know, there's been like this step, but it was a whim in the sense of I loved photography always.
Yeah.
Even back into like being a kid or in high school, I had a small camera and I would always be taking pictures. But it was nothing I ever considered, hey, I'll do this professionally.
Yeah.
And so it really was the catalyst of, hey, I've got this camera and it seems like a waste. Let's just see what happens.
Right. And I think there's something magical about like timing in
Mm-hmm.
our life as well.
Yeah.
I mean, whether that's a hobby
Mm-hmm.
or meeting your husband, like all of these things. Have you ever read The Alchemist?
No.
Really? Oh, I
Mm-mm.
highly recommend it.
Okay.
It's a super easy read. After everyone who's been talking about it, I thought it was gonna be like this monstrous book,
Yeah.
but it's like this thin.
Really.
You could finish it within a day if you have a
Okay.
whole day to read. But I'm gonna give you a little spoiler, if
Mm-hmm.
that's
Of
okay.
course, I read the end of books all the time.
Oh, I'm so
So,
glad. I feel like we're like the same spirit animal.
yeah.
But this book is essentially about this little boy who has this dream about this
Mm-hmm.
treasure, and he decides to follow this crazy intuition to go for it. And
Mm-hmm.
he leaves everyone and everything he's known. He leaves his hometown to go on this hero's journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And along the way, he has all these adventures and hardships and challenges and exciting things, meets the love of his life, all these things, right? Only to find out that the treasure was buried in his backyard all this time. So he ends up coming home,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
And so Joseph Campbell, this is a different book. This one's a hard read, I'm not gonna lie. It's called The Hero's Journey.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it talks about this concept of exactly the alchemist story, where you have this character who has all this like untapped potential, and then they have to go on this journey. They must leave
Mm-hmm.
everything they know, right? Which
Yeah.
is literally your life story from what you
Right.
just said, because you
Yeah.
were, grew up here in St. Louis,
Mm-hmm.
but then you went on this journey all over the world
Yeah.
and then felt called to come home.
Mm-hmm.
But when you followed that voice, it led you to your husband.
Yep.
It led you to this beautiful hobby, which led to a total career change, which is super fulfilling. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I love talking to people who glow
Yeah.
and are so passionate about what they do. And I can see that you truly
Mm-hmm.
just love it,
Yeah.
you know?
I do. I truly, truly do. And I my husband is just like the best guy ever. He's
Yay.
amazing.
I'm so
Just
happy. That's so great.
super, super amazing
Yeah.
guy. And it, the level to which he has supported me through this career change. I mean, really, it was kind of a career change. I was still doing the consultancy work when we met, but really truly supporting me and saying like, no, I know you love it. I see that you love it and you have to pursue this.
Yeah.
Um just means the world. And all of the struggles and things, that come along with running a business, are worth it when I see people in these images. Um, it's really cool. It's really
So
cool.
I have a side question for
Yeah.
you. I'm a lover girl, and I call
Mhm.
myself a connoisseur of love stories.
Mhm.
So in a second, I'm going to ask you also how you met your husband.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, but maybe I should ask that. No, I'm gonna ask my question first because
Yeah.
I have to go in order because
Yeah.
my ADD brain is like wanting to know this. But like, so I'm single
Mhm.
and I am in a place in my life where the love of my life is pursuing my passions
Mhm.
with my coffee brand and with my
Yeah.
podcast. Like those are my two passions.
Mhm.
And I feel like, well, aside from the podcasting, which we very clearly have
Mhm.
in common,
Yeah.
I think both of us have this love of people.
Mhm.
And so both of the things that we're involved with give us that opportunity to connect with others and serve them and see them be the best
Mhm.
version of themselves,
Yeah.
right? And so I guess my big concern is always just like, will being in a relationship hinder me from getting to do what I love? Because sometimes men can be a distraction, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Mhm.
They're, I mean, it sounds like you found a man who supports you and wants you to be the
Mhm.
best version of yourself. But I guess a fear of mine around relationships has always been, but what if he makes me complacent? And of
Mhm.
course, I'm responsible for myself. I realize this.
Sure.
But like, what if he doesn't want me to do this? And maybe I'm not strong enough to like stand up for
Mhm.
my dreams and my passions. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what my exact
Ooh,
question
that's
is,
a really
but you know what I mean?
insightful thought. I know that's not even that's wasn't a question, but there's a really insightful thought in there. Um,
Because it's like we want love,
Mhm.
but we also, I think as women, we understand that for some women, being a wife and a mom is enough.
Mhm.
But for some women, it's not. We need more. We need to be of
Mhm.
service. We have something in us that we need to share with the world.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you find both?
Yeah. I'm gonna try to give not an answer, but my perspective on this. Let's see. As someone who did not meet her husband until she was 40, almost 41, I definitely have a perspective of, first of all, my career being everything to me at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Like absolutely everything to me at one point. And that was amazing and it was thrilling. I could not imagine being in that career as someone who wants to spend as much time with their partner as I do. Um, so there's, prefacing with that. Also, as someone who has been in abysmally awful relationships previously, um, I ended up working that job in another country, basically to get out of the relationship that I was in. Like, I must
Mm.
detangle myself from this horror show that I am currently in the midst of. Oh gosh, you're going to offer me this job? I shall take it and move to another country. Um, it was wild. Um, but coming back to going through having that big career, like the career they tell us we all should want,
Right.
you know, it was the money, the travel, the clothes, all of the things. And for me, that was still deeply unsatisfying for what I
Mm.
wanted for the rest of my life. Um, and that's me. That's Laura saying, that I knew that was not enough for me. Um, that, I loved that, but I also wanted the more of that with someone to share my life with. Um, so coming home and then meeting my husband and having him be just like this truly awesome dude. Um, but still also him supporting me in honestly whatever avenue I would want to pursue was worth the wait.
Mm.
And I always wondered, where is my person? Where is this person for me? Um, they were out there. It just wasn't the right time yet. And I would do it all over again. All of the, frankly, horrors of some of it,
Yeah.
and all of the hard work and all of the waiting and wondering to get to the life that I have now with my husband. Um, and also still be able to have a career.
I don't know, I'm getting
That's
emotional.
okay. A,
Okay,
a
continue.
career and a job and a business
Yeah.
and a social life that I love. Um, I truly feel like I have it all. The only thing I don't have is children, and that isn't for lack of want. That wasn't for lack of trying. Um, that ship has sailed, and that makes me really sad. But there also is a purpose and a reason for that. I don't quite know what that is yet.
Yeah.
Um, but I could not be more thrilled with my life. Um, and I do know that that's one, what I have made it, but that is also sharing it with somebody who is just as invested in my success and growth as his own, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Like that's like we're in it together, no matter what it is, good or bad. And I think that's truly the difference because
Yeah.
I think back to the relationship that I always kind of think back on of like, I could have married that person and my life would be hell
Mm.
because it would not be what it is today. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
Um, so does that make sense?
It does. It does. And it's like, and I think in a weird way, you were lucky without knowing the details,
Mhm,
but even just hearing that it was like a horrific relationship. And why I say lucky is I think when a relationship is so traumatic, it's obvious
mhm,
objectively and logically what you need to do. It's emotionally hard to
mhm,
do that. And sometimes it takes time and a lot of therapy and just setting
mhm.
yourself up correctly so you can exit that relationship.
Yeah.
There's a lot of complications with leaving a relationship, especially depending on how much you've connected your lives together.
Mhm,
But at the same time, my biggest fear isn't ending up in a traumatic relationship. My biggest fear is ending up in a relationship that feels like I settled. It's not a bad
mm,
relationship. It's just not a passionate relationship.
mhm,
Like, even just hearing you talk about your husband, like that is my dream for myself, but that is my dream for all my friends and all the
mhm,
women that I meet, that they should meet that person who just makes them able to sit back and blossom and be the best version of themselves,
mhm.
whatever that means.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes as women, especially because we have a biological clock,
Mhm,
and there's so much pressure from society and pressure that we quite honestly put on ourselves,
mhm,
that we want to get married by a certain age. We
mhm.
want to have children by a certain age.
Yeah.
Now that time frame may wiggle for different people what that
Mhm.
is, but I think we all in the back of our minds have certain timelines when we want
Yeah.
that to happen. And when those ages start to approach and we haven't found this majestic, magical, passionate love,
Mhm.
whether it's other voices outside of our own, like especially the people who love us,
Yeah.
who don't want to see us alone, or even our own fears, and sometimes just practically financially it's hard,
Mhm.
especially in today's economy to like be on your own,
Yeah.
that we might find someone who's good enough,
Mhm.
who's a good person,
Mhm.
who has the qualities of a good husband,
Right.
or if there's guys listening who have the qualities of a good wife,
Right.
and then we end up with them. And I think you can grow a bond with someone. You can be fond of
Mhm.
them,
Sure.
but like, I guess I could never imagine myself being with someone who I wasn't just passionately in love with.
Mhm.
And I would rather be single
Mhm.
than be with someone who I didn't feel madly, incredibly grateful for.
Right.
where when I'm sharing the story with someone else, they're tearing up because they could hear
Hmm.
how amazing it is,
Yeah.
And like I love like it couldn't have been easy that you had to wait for so long,
Hmm.
but I love that you got your happy ending,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And I guess two things because it's so, I mean, I've had people tell me all of the different things all my life. Oh, it'll happen when you stop looking. It'll,
Of course.
all of the things. And I mean, to an extent, it kind of did. I don't know, there may be some truth to that. But not really. Like, I really was like, once, my sister-in-law told me once, I will never forget it. I was sitting in their kitchen, my brother and his wife, and um I was telling her about just somebody I had moved home, I was casually dating somebody, but it still just was like not the greatest. Like he was a good guy.
Yeah.
We weren't like fighting or arguing, but it was just like there was just not this like flow. And
Yeah.
she was like, Laura, it just shouldn't be this hard.
Mm.
And I remember thinking, Becky, what are you talking about? And she'll know. She knows. But I remember thinking, like, I mean, I get it, but it's just hard. Life is hard. And I think she said something to the effects of like, life is hard. And yes, you will go through hard times. Like, you will hurt each other's feelings or get into an argument. Like, nothing is ever perfect, but like the things in the life things that really matter, it should not be hard. It should
Agreed.
not be this hard. You should just constantly be each other's team. And I was like, okay. And at the time, I remember thinking, like, okay, I guess. And then I met my husband, and I met him online on Match.com. I don't even know if I think Match.com is still around. It wasn't that long ago. We're talking like 7 years
I
ago. I
used
don't think it's the like top
no.
one.
I used it like a few years ago, so I know
Yeah.
it's definitely around.
Yeah. So we met and um we only kind of I think met because I had signed up, I had broken up with the it was probably too difficult guy and thought, well, I'm not just sitting around like languishing forever. And I signed up for Match and I thought, well, I'll give it 30 days. And I was about a week into or 3 weeks in, and I'm like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And one of my best friends was like, well, you've paid for it. You have to. Like, just see it through. Like, nothing terrible is going to come out of it. Well, wouldn't you know it, that's the week that I met my husband. So we decided to go out for a drink and pretty quickly. Like, I wasn't like let's not dilly dally and sit here and email and text each other for weeks and weeks. Like, let's just, he sent me a
Yeah.
message that wasn't horrifying. It was paragraphs in which, it seemed like he had actually read what I wrote. The bar was like here.
Right.
Um, and we decided we would just go out for a drink. And we met and we ended up just sort of like clicking right from the get-go. But I don't know if there was like a spark initially. I was kind of like, he's super nice. I would see him again. We had a blast talking. We talked about politics, religion, and geeked out on Star Wars.
Mm.
And that was our first date. And then from there, I was a little busy. He travels for work for his day job. And it was almost 3 weeks before we were able to go out again. And it was in that 3 week period. We talked, we texted, he would call. Um, and he was just nice. He was just super nice. And I remember we got to that second date and I almost canceled. I almost ghosted because I didn't like my pants. I was on, her typical girl thing. I don't like my pants today. I can't do anything. I'm not leaving the house. And I was like, dude, you can't ghost this guy. He has been so nice
Mm.
this whole time. like so nice and so kind and so patient and just sort of fun and interesting to talk with. And so I went on the date. And I remember sitting on our date and looking across the table at somebody I was like not entirely certain at the time if I was like into or not, and thinking, this guy's really attractive. He's got really blue eyes. And it was just that little softness of, oh, I think I might like this guy. But I wasn't, if we hadn't had that 3 weeks to talk and hang out and get to know each other a little bit more and no pressure of any kind, um, I don't know where it would have been. But we went out to dinner and then we went bowling. And then that was kind of it. After that second date, I was like, I really like this guy. I want to see where it
Yeah.
goes. And it was just easy. It was just easy.
You know, anyone who has a relationship that I really admire, they use that word,
Hmm.
that it's just easy.
Hmm.
And it's just like what your friend Becky said, like it's not hard.
Yeah.
It just that's their person,
Hmm.
and it's like I think a lot of us girls do initially want that spark,
Hmm.
but you have enough hiccups with the spark
Yeah.
to realize that maybe something's off.
Hmm.
And I've gotten to the point now where it's like I'm kind of something switched in me because I had a little interaction with someone recently and I was just like, oof, I don't like how that played out. I don't
Hmm.
like how I was showing up
Hmm.
too. And so leaning back, now I'm not putting them on a pedestal. I'm not
Hmm.
like making men my entire existence.
Hmm.
I'm just people
Hmm.
getting to know you.
Yeah.
And if it flows, it flows. If it doesn't, that's not a big deal,
Hmm.
you know? And also, just because people are interested in you doesn't mean you have to be interested in them too.
Right.
But then it's just more of, well, how are they showing up? How am
Hmm.
I feeling?
Hmm.
And if it feels good, just keep going with it.
Yeah.
And then I think that's when things really build and flow and like it's more of a friendship basis.
Hmm.
And then that's when you can find that passionate love that is so much
Hmm.
more meaningful and has so
Yeah.
much more of like a tangible foundation,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And I see what you mean too. Like you don't want to run the risk of like, oh, I feel like I settled. And I don't know how to describe the difference between it feels easy and oh, I just
I
settled.
think,
There's a huge difference.
right.
I don't know quite how to pinpoint it. Like
I think I
it's
do. Because there's a few friends of mine who
mhm.
are in relationships where I feel like they settled.
Mhm.
And I think the difference is how they talk about their person.
Gotcha.
Where it's like something doesn't seem 100% settled with them about their person.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like they're more relieved not to be single. They're
Okay.
more relieved to finally be in that status of whatever they
Mhm.
want it to be, whether it's a relationship or married or
Sure.
kids, having,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like when they talk about their spouse, they talk about them the way you're talking about your husband.
Mhm.
And I think to me, that's the difference. Like,
Yeah.
to me, it's not about passion or huge gestures.
Mhm.
It's more about how are they together?
Mhm.
Like, is there just, like sometimes when you see couples and they walk together, they fit.
Right.
You're like, whether you could have pictured them together or not, you see them together, you're like, you make sense,
Yeah.
you
That
know?
that works. That fits.
Or
Yeah.
even better for me is when they're apart, hearing how they talk about each other,
Mhm.
especially how the man talks about his partner.
Mhm.
That is huge for me because I've worked with a lot of guys who the way they talk about their significant others who, if their person was in front of them, they would never say the things that
Right.
they're saying.
Yeah.
And like, but when I meet a man where his wife isn't around and he just talks about her like she's everything,
Mhm.
to me, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's how it should be.
It should be.
And if you
Yeah.
have an issue with your person, you talk to your person. You don't
Right.
you don't badmouth them to everyone else,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But I think this is actually a perfect segue into like a big part of your photography niche of what
Mhm.
you do now,
Yeah.
because you do a lot of boudoir,
Mhm.
and I love your style
Thank you.
because it's such a It's okay, so I love Sex and the City. It's one of
Uh-huh.
my all-time favorite, like, feel-good shows.
Yeah.
I've watched it an ungodly amount of times. I just restarted it last night. But I just remember, like, one episode where Samantha, like, has her own, like, boudoir session,
hmm
and she's single and she's not doing it for anyone else, and she was just, like, so confident about herself and her body,
hmm
and it was just this empowering thing where she's like, "I'm never gonna be this young again, like, let me just
hmm
capture this beauty and this passion that I feel about myself."
Yeah.
And I don't know, something about that concept always, like, super intrigued me, where it's,
hmm
like, just learning to love yourself, and your style is so elegant and so
Thank
clean.
you.
I really love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's right now I have a huge focus on boudoir. I love it. I love women. I
Yeah.
love women seeing themselves in a new light.
Yep.
Not necessarily, as a mom or a wife or just who they are. And I do have a little bit of a different style than a lot of times what you see with boudoir.
It's light.
It's light. It's
Yeah.
light, it's bright. Even my work that's dark is still somehow light. I don't know how to, describe that, but I am not sort of that dark and moody photographer, kind of in
Yeah.
any of my style. Um And that's just kind of where I've gravitated. If you would have asked me 2 years ago if I was interested in shooting boudoir of any kind, I would have said, "Oh, absolutely not. That's, like, way too intimate for me." But that's changed over time. All of my portraiture is about women and motherhood, even when I'm photographing families, there's a huge focus on mom
Yeah.
and highlighting the woman of the family. And it really is from how we style mom, how we style the woman, everything that she is the focus and everybody else is just kind of an accessory to her
Yep.
because she created that family.
She's the nucleus.
Yep.
Totally.
And out of that, like with families and maternity and newborn, I realized I am creating a really intimate space here with people, particularly with newborn, is how it came around, is being in my studio with these brand new moms for sometimes hours and hours and hours, because you've got this brand new baby who it's possibly the first time they've left the house. That's a really sacred space
Yeah.
with people. And that was maybe a little lost on me in the beginning, but not anymore. And out of that, when I realized, like, gosh, I'm in a really, really intimate place with these families and these new moms. And I don't know, maybe, also adding in this boudoir space that is more intimate and more sacred and special too, helping these women kind of see themselves in a different way. That is not scary. That's not, you know, not everybody's vibe is that dark and moody.
No.
I say ass up,
Yeah, like,
way. And there
yeah.
is zero wrong with that. Let me be
No,
100%
there
clear.
isn't. It's just a style.
Zero wrong with that. But that is not everybody's style, and
Yeah.
not everybody is going to consider a session for themselves if they think that, well, this is how it has to look.
Yeah.
And or I'm not ever going to feel comfortable doing that. And I felt like, gosh, maybe I can create a space where people would be comfortable with that,
Yeah.
and being vulnerable themselves. And I feel like I have to be vulnerable to create the
You have
vulnerability.
to create that safe
Yeah.
space. Yeah.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
love it. I truly love it. I've had some sessions recently and I have a few more planned that are taking things even more in a direction that is truly, truly about women and whether we photograph that person completely clothed or various stages of more nudity or not, that the power of that woman comes through.
Yeah.
I really want to create a whole collection of women's portraiture that eventually we might even be able to showcase
I
is kind of
love
the
that.
goal. Yeah.
Because like I obviously looked at your stuff. I've
Mhm.
seen your style. I have loved your style. My background's in marketing and graphic
Mhm.
design. So I wasn't able to pinpoint it till just now. But hearing you talk about it and your vision and kind of just the natural evolution of how it
Mhm.
came to be, to me, the story that it tells
Mhm.
is a purity
Mhm.
in the sensuality,
Mhm.
where it's like, I think, let's say, for example, like boudoir is like the striptease of sex, right? For a
Mhm.
lot of people.
Mhm.
And so sex has a lot of different elements to it,
Mhm.
right? Because there is this sex that is like more moody and sensual and
Mhm.
dark and like just hot and
Yeah.
spicy, and that's glorious. And there's a
Mhm.
place for that.
Yeah.
But then, like, even for someone like me, and like, I don't know if you knew this, but some of my listeners know this, I'm waiting for marriage.
Mhm.
And so it's like, but I don't but then again, one of my favorite shows is Sex in the City. So I don't
Mhm.
view it as like a
Yeah.
sin. It's just a time and a place. It's a
Yep.
beautiful expression. It's done in a safe space.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm so drawn towards your style,
Mhm.
because to me, it almost reminds me of like the traditional boudoir is like nighttime,
Mhm.
sexy time. Maybe after you just met like your lover and you just want to like
Mhm.
get down and
Yeah.
have fun and
Yep.
just like be there. But like yours to me is like waking up in the morning to someone you
Mhm.
love and it's like the sun is streaming through the sun,
Mhm.
like the window, and you're in that safe space
Yep.
and it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And like the fact that like the newborn shots are the ones that kind of led to this
Mhm.
makes so much sense because it's all coming from like sex has such a pure and beautiful
Mhm.
element to it as well.
Yeah.
So that's so cool that you were able to like
Mhm.
capture that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. It's intended to be fun. And I just can't wait to continue to see where it goes. Because I have been working with a business coach, um, Abby Rudolph, who I
I'm
think
gonna
you
be working
know.
with her
Yes,
too. Yeah.
yes.
Shout out to you,
Believe
Abby.
in branding. And, and we have really been like digging in, and she told me, I think it was last week that we talked about it, and she was like, I feel like you're not just a boudoir photographer. And I'm like, you're probably right. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I
You see women.
want to, but I don't want to just be, well, now I'm just not, and I don't mean just, but I'm just a maternity photographer. I'm just a family photographer. I'm like, no, I am a women's
I
photographer.
think you see the power and the soul of women and you bring it
Hmm.
out. Because, like, for example, the photographs that you just did of Sam,
Hmm.
shout out to you, DJ Sam.
Right.
She's so much more than just a DJ.
She is so cool.
She's so cool. She's got so many layers to her. But,
Yes.
like, the different shots that you captured of her were so, like, sexy in a pure way and powerful without being in your face.
Yeah.
It was really beautiful.
I had this vision for Sam,
Yeah.
and I was so excited when she was, because I had put in our, like, we have a little Babes of Business chat, and I put it in there like, hey, I'm looking for somebody over the age of 40 to do a shoot with me. And she was like, I'll do it. And I was immediately like, yes. And I told her, I said, I was so excited when you said yes, because I'm like, not only are you like the one of the coolest people I've ever met,
Yeah.
you're a smoke show. And I think this will just be fun. But I had this vision. I'm like, I need her in a black suit with
Hmm.
just the jacket, just the pants, a set of like powerful heels is what I had in mind. And I'm like, I need her like staring at my camera. And that's what we got. It was,
You did
we did,
so
we had
good.
so much fun. She was She came to play ball like that. It was amazing.
Yeah, we're definitely going to put the links for all of
Mhm.
our socials
Yeah.
so that people can see your work so they
Mhm.
can like reference what we're talking about.
Yes.
So if you want to take a pause in the podcast and go check it
Yeah, go
out,
check it
the
out.
links in the bio.
Right.
It's worth checking out. It's just your storytelling and it's magic.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot, and it is. It's really truly about showing women like in a light that they may not have even seen themselves in yet.
love,
Mhm.
love.
Yep.
Yeah, and like that's such an art and a gift to be able to do because you have to A, be able to see it,
Mhm.
have that vision, be able to create that safe space for the women,
Mhm.
and then to actually have the skill set to capture it in the way that it's in your head.
Yeah.
Like from start to finish, it's incredible. It's really cool.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. It's yeah. I am so excited to see one of my goals, again, just to put it out in the world, is I had originally thought of this as a 40 over 40 campaign where
Mhm.
you have 40 women over the age of 40.
Love.
You photograph them over the course of the year. And then at the end of the year, you do like an actual like gallery exhibit of all of that work. I still want to do that, but I think I'm going to put my own spin on it in some
Mm.
way, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what that looks like.
Yeah.
But I want it to be women's portraiture. I don't, I'm leaning towards
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so another Sex and the City
Yeah.
reference. Okay, this is gonna sound really radical that I didn't know this, but until I watched Sex and the City, I didn't realize that every woman's vagina looks different.
Okay.
I didn't know that. I just thought a
Hmm.
vagina was a vagina. I
Yeah.
didn't know. I grew up super religious. We never really kind
Right. We
of
didn't talk about that.
we didn't really I mean, we talked about other stuff, but
Yeah.
I just how the bees and the birds and everything like
Right.
that, but like we didn't really go
Yeah.
into like details. I mean, goodness, I didn't even know that there was like four different phases of my cycle till I was 27.
Information that we're all missing early on.
Literally, being a woman is so much it doesn't I mean it's difficult, but it's not as
Mhm.
difficult as it should be if we only had the information that we need, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, I digress. So there was Charlotte,
Hmm.
she had the art gallery,
Hmm.
and she went after this painter who, in the end, had this collection of different women's vaginas.
Oh,
And that was, he depicted it in a very like contemporary way
right.
that was like showcasing the beauty
Hmm.
of a woman's vagina.
Yeah.
And so I promise this does connect. My thought when you said like 40
Yeah.
over 40
Right.
was like, what if, especially like what we were talking about,
Mhm.
like you found love after 40, right?
Mhm.
And so what if you had like each woman depicting like breaking the boundaries of stereotypes of the
Okay.
time constraints of women,
Yeah.
right? So it's like whether that's career or
Mhm.
family or becoming a mom after 40, like there's so many barriers that we
Right.
break. And if you could find different women who like break this and then you capture that,
Mm.
right? Because like let's
Mhm.
say for example, like Sam, she's so cool, like being a DJ and
Yeah.
she's a mom and she's doing this whole like she is such an entrepreneur and then also
Mhm.
especially like go listen to her episode. I'll link that if you guys want also so you guys can see. But she like has broken so many barriers and turned her life around, right? And so like there's the storytelling that you can do through your photographs, but then also
Mhm.
like there can be, the little
Yeah. No, I
description.
have Sam and I ran out of time that particular day. But part of my intent with these sessions that I want to collect is an interview component.
Yes, and then if
Mm.
you had a little QR code by each
Mhm.
thing, people could
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love
So I'm
this.
forming the idea. I formed the idea, and I know that there 40 over 40 campaigns have been done before, but I want to like really like noodle on it a little bit and figure out
I wish I was 40 now.
well, I'm actually thinking I am not exclusively going to limit it to the women in their 40s or above. I think I'm I'm chewing on it a little bit.
Okay.
So more to come, but that's the plan. By the end of Like, let's say I would like to be able to exhibit this work before the end of the year of 2026.
Okay, because I will tell you,
Yeah.
if you need someone and you have a vision,
Mm-hmm.
I'm so open, and I'll tell you
Okay.
why, because this freaks me out.
Yeah.
And on so many levels. One, just having my photo taken
Mm-hmm.
has been something that I struggle with for a really long time.
Okay.
I went off of Instagram when I was 23,
Mm-hmm.
and it totally changed my perception on beauty because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't completely bombarded by filters and
Mm-hmm.
photoshopped faces and all these things. Do I still filter my photos? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But less so. Where
Mm-hmm.
it's still my face, but like I've just gotten rid of some redness, maybe gotten rid of some oiliness,
Mm-hmm.
some acne, but it's not like I've completely contorted my face,
Mm-hmm.
which I used to definitely do. And I got called out for it. I'm like, what do you mean I use a filter? I never use a filter when clearly
We've all face tuned to the
we
to
go
the
through those
in
phases.
yeah.
But like even recording myself for this
Mm-hmm.
podcast, it would be too much work to edit, and
Right.
change things. So I've had to learn to just accept myself. And I remember the first time I saw myself on video for my
Mm-hmm.
podcast, the first episode, I was like, oh my God. Like most people are worried about their voices. I'm fine with my voice. I was freaked out about seeing myself. And I'm like,
Right.
oh my God. And like I had a photographer, God bless his soul, but he was a man. And like some of the angles in the beginning episode were not my best, but I just pushed
Just
past
do it.
those
Yeah.
barriers to the point now where like I look at some of the videos, I'm like, oh, I look so cute. But
Mm-hmm.
it's so amazing that I was able to like push past those
Yeah.
insecurities, and I
Mm-hmm.
can look back at old photos of mine that I was pre-fixing and be
Mm-hmm.
like, I was so cute. Like, why
Right.
did I feel the need to cover up my natural face?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
No,
So,
it's ingrained in us today, the way things are presented to us on particularly social media, for
yeah.
sure. Because I look back at myself when I was in my like late teens, early 20s. I remember thinking, and I mean, we didn't have social media then. So it was different. But also at the time, like that mental picture I had of myself,
Mm-hmm.
and then now looking back and being like, she was a stunner. Like a stunner. Like look at that girl,
Right?
you know? And
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to be just as kind to myself today as I am reflecting back on that 17-year-old, that 25-year-old, that 30-year-old, as I am now at 48,
Yeah.
you know? And it's a hard thing to do.
And people see so much more than just your looks too.
Hmm.
It's like who you are as a person,
Hmm.
what's your heart like, what's your energy like. Like people aren't
Yeah.
just seeing, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but it's like, but we are all so beautiful. And I think that's what was so amazing about getting off of Instagram. I was like, I used to love watching makeovers.
Hmm.
And I was like, why does everyone not wear makeup? They look so much better.
Right.
But now I'm like, I mean, yeah, makeup's nice.
Hmm.
I wear makeup, but I've definitely toned it down
Hmm.
a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes low key, I like how people look better,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. I don't wear, I mean, I have makeup on today. Not much, compared to I'm not full glam most of the time. I don't have time for that.
No,
I do have time for that. I just won't take the time for that.
I don't have time for it.
Yeah.
Mine's a 10-minute routine at this
Yeah.
point. I do tinted moisturizer, a little eyeliner, or yeah, eyeliner, mascara. I fill my eyebrows in a little bit and some lipstick, and that's
Hmm.
it.
Yeah. We dabbed on some foundation today. It was a big day. But yeah. Yeah. Now, well, we will have to talk. I'm coming up with a vision for you. So,
Oh, really?
hmm.
I'm so
Yes,
excited.
yes.
This is great because like a part of me has always wanted to be a model.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I like it. Well, we'll have to chit chat and plan.
yeah.
I think I have a good idea for you.
Cool.
Okay. Very cool.
I'm so excited. Y'all will just have to wait.
For sure.
You'll just
You
have
don't
to
even know
wait.
what's
You don't
coming.
even know.
Um,
That's so
yeah.
fun.
What else you got for me?
I just You're such a cool person, honestly.
Well,
Like,
thank
I
you.
love, first of all, that you just trusted your gut, and I'm a big believer in following your
Mhm.
curiosity, you know?
Yeah. It's I don't know if I know another way to be. And that's not to say like I don't have insecurities of my own. I don't have struggles, I have struggles of my own for sure. Um, you catch me on the right day and I may not leave my house for a week, like
Yeah.
everybody's got their stuff. But I think in general, myself and everyone else has got a really interesting story to tell.
Mm.
And it's about being curious and learning more about that person and what makes them tick. Like, I don't want to know your favorite color, if you like ketchup or mustard. I want to know, like,
What sets your soul on fire?
yeah, what sets your soul on fire? What makes you feel excited to get up and move and create?
Yeah, and I think a lot of us have so much that we do in our lives
Hmm.
that maybe to the outside eye might seem random.
Hmm.
But when you really get to know a person and what drives them and what inspires them,
Hmm.
all of a sudden the connections make sense, right?
Yeah.
Like you doing a podcast and photography, you're like, what's the connection,
Hmm.
right? But now that I've gotten to talk to you more, it totally makes sense. One flows into the other. And I will say one awesome thing about podcasting that I did not foresee at
Hmm.
all. And I don't know if you're at this stage yet, but I hope if you're not that you get to this stage soon
Hmm.
because it's really, really amazing. Is in the beginning, I was interviewing people I knew, people
Hmm.
already in my circle because my circle was much smaller. And then as I
Hmm.
became an entrepreneur, I put myself out there more and more and got to know people and just was like, hey, you want to be on a podcast? You seem like you have a great
Right.
story. Like, come on. Now my podcast has gotten to the point where either people are coming into my DMs and asking if they can
Hmm.
share their stories, which is such an honor. If you have a story and you're listening right now, please let me know. It like makes me so
Hmm.
happy that people will see my work and see my style and feel safe to share their stories with me.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then the other thing is guests will have such a great time
Hmm.
that without me even asking for like a referral, they'll refer a
Gotcha.
friend to
Yeah.
me. I'm at the point now with some of my guests where I'm on like my third or fourth referrals from a guest who knew a guest who
That's
knew a
neat.
guest who knew a
Yeah.
guest to the point where it's like I don't even have to do as much work with finding people.
Hmm.
It's the scheduling. The scheduling is
Hmm.
hard. And like what I usually typically try to do is I do a coffee pregame beforehand with my
Gotcha.
guests
Yeah.
to build rapport, to kind of get a game plan beforehand.
Hmm.
We did not.
We did
We went
not.
rogue, but I knew you.
Okay, we have
So,
chatted like
right,
several times.
right.
So
And
yeah.
each time there was like more and more time
Hmm.
and more rapport. So I was like, it's gonna be fine. Yeah, it's gonna be fine. And we're both podcasters. Like,
Right. And I think we both just like to talk to people. So
totally.
that helps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
But I knew it was going to be great. This totally ties in because the whole theme of my podcast, it's not just for women. I actually work so hard to make this not just about women. If you look at my guests, like majority of them
Yeah.
are women because I grew up so religious
Mhm.
and in such a segregated world between men and women that I just naturally am more
Yeah.
comfortable in women's circles. But I'm really pushing myself to meet men and put
Hmm.
myself out there and like get really cool male guests
Yeah.
on because the whole basis of my podcast and it's that tradition that I told you about,
Hmm.
which is it's all based on this theme. There's this Hebrew quote which is Eze Chacham Halomein Mikol Adam,
Hmm.
which means one who is wise is one who learns from everyone. So we learned a lot
Ah,
from you
yes.
and about you today.
Yeah.
So if you have like your favorite life quote or favorite lesson that you want to share with
Yeah.
us.
So I had told you before, this quote is something that I hadn't thought about in a long time, and I don't know if I'm going to get it completely right because I couldn't find it on my phone, but it is basically we are better people for those around us. Meaning, we are who we should be based on who we allow into our lives. And I thought that was really interesting because we can't self sustain. I mean, we
Yeah.
can. We can live, we can go through our lives, we can not have any contact, but our lives are so much better and so much richer when we allow and truly allow other people into them.
Yeah.
And I just think there, for me, there is so much truth in that, that when I like hunker down and I don't leave my house for a week, I'm like not the happiest version of myself.
100%. Yeah.
When I am open and allowing that energy of other people and their story and everything that they can teach me and I can teach them, it's just so much richer. It's just so much better than that solitary life. And that really has resonated with me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's I align with you so much because like my podcast is that same thing where it's like I know how I felt the first time I was on the receiving end as a guest.
Hmm.
I had a little minute where I asked where it was an open forum and I asked a
Hmm.
question. And just that moment with that attention from the audience and holding the mic could change something in me.
Hmm.
And then I was like, I want to share this with others because we pass by people all the time, but
Hmm.
everyone has so much depth and so much story.
Yeah.
And I love these kinds of conversations. I do this in my regular life. It's like, what if we recorded them?
Hmm.
Because I bet you people will learn so much,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And like when we hear other stories and we hear their challenges and we hear their successes, it makes us feel a little less alone.
Hmm.
And like that's the power of connection.
Yep.
And even my dream of having a brick and mortar coffee shop, it's the same thing.
Hmm.
Like, yes, I have this dream, but it's really to serve others because I like to hear people's ideas
Yeah.
and then 10x them
Right.
and connect them with people. Because the more people I know, the more I can connect people and be like,
Right.
oh, you two would
Yeah.
totally like, you're the missing pieces and you
It's
don't even
bringing
know.
people together.
That's what I want to do.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. What's your zodiac sign?
Libra.
Libra?
Hmm.
Ah, no wonder I like you.
Yeah. What is yours?
Aries.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I'm an Aries sun and a Libra moon. So that's
Gotcha.
why I feel like the connection.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
A totally different thing, but I did like a quick, not even anything official, like star chart reading the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think there's something to this.
You should, Carolyn, who was there,
Mhm.
you should go to one of her events
Yeah.
because she breaks it down and really explains it to you.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm gonna have her on soon too, so
Oh,
I'm
that'll be fun.
excited.
That'll be
Oh,
very
I'm
fun.
so excited. What's your husband's sign? Do you know?
Um, I'm not good enough at the charts to know. I will have to look.
Okay,
Yeah,
curious. Okay, he's probably an earth sign from the sounds of
probably.
it. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
This has been such a pleasure.
Well, thank
Is
you.
there anything that we haven't covered that you would like to share?
No, I don't think
Okay,
so.
nice.
Yeah. I mean, people at the end of the day, I'll put all my stuff in the thing. You can find me, ask me any questions,
Yeah.
reach out to me if you need, pictures done.
Yeah, so it's like the best way, like what's the best way for like my audience to support you?
Um, I would say sharing things because everybody needs pictures, but my style may not resonate with every single person, but it might resonate with your friend. So
Right?
if you think you know somebody who loves what I do, whether it's you or somebody else, send it that way. That's how I continue to grow, whether that's the podcast, whether that's photographs, um, you know, just getting the word out there that there's this gal, she really loves women,
Yeah.
really, really wants to like make you feel and look your best.
Yeah. You have a strong why and your mission's like really
Hmm.
powerful. So
Yeah.
I'm so excited to like watch both your photography and your podcast
Hmm.
grow.
I think it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. This has been awesome.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me
Yeah.
on. I
This has
really
been such a
appreciate it.
joy. And a little sneak preview. I'm gonna be a guest on her podcast right now.
Yes.
We're gonna wrap this one up, and then I'm gonna
We're gonna
be
probably not switch chairs, but we're
probably
gonna have a
not.
whole nother conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, so this will be fun. Depending on like when all this is linked, I'll do a link to your episode as
Okay.
well. So this way we can
Yeah.
tag team. That'll be great.
Perfect. I love it.
Okay.
Thank you, friend.
Of course. Well, guys, this has been another wonderful episode. This was so much fun to like nerd out about podcast stuff. And if you guys are not already watching, the video is on Spotify and YouTube. And if you're not already subscribed, what are you doing with your life, especially on YouTube? I'm trying to grow. Please help your girl out. And if you can just share this episode with a friend, I would appreciate that so much. I hope you guys have a great week. Let's get it. Let's go.